mask, get out of the way.
I think we're here.
All righty.
We're good.
Good morning. It's Thursday, and this is Teresa Agresta here with Cynthia Forstman. We are from Culture Talk, and we're excited that you are joining our weekly conversation here this morning. Today, we're going to talk about scaling culture. We do an awful lot of diving deep into particular topics, trying to help people understand, how does culture impact all these various aspects of their business? So we know that people come to the idea of culture from different perspectives. And so what we'd like to talk about today is this idea that once you've got this core foundational understanding of what culture is all about, it's like a gift that keeps on giving. It's one of the best ways that we know to take a foundational look at who you are, how you show up, and what you're committed to. And then once you've got that information, it's like data. It's like a foundation that you can use and you can apply and you can scale the impact and the ROI across the whole organization. And we've had some really fun, interesting, case studies to share that demonstrate how getting clear on your culture can have like a reverberating effect and drive ROI for years to come. It's not a flavor of the month, right? It's something that really sticks with you.
Yeah, I'd love to just add, speaking of flavor of the month, right? There's so many things that I think happen in organizations that are maybe too surface level. We take a team through an experience in one level, and it's fun and it's bright and whatever, but then we do nothing with it, right? It becomes maybe something we put on the bookshelf and it gets dusty. We don't actually, I was thinking this morning about the jeans jacket. I said that, like, what is that foundational piece that kind of you continue to get value out of? And so we definitely we want to be able to do a culture or a change initiative at a deeper level that, to your point, builds ROI over time. It gets more valuable over time as it continues to get baked into the organization, the systems, and the language that people use to talk about who am I and who are we?
And who are we? Exactly. So we've seen consultants and trainers and learning and development people enter this conversation through all kinds of different doors. And we've shared lots of examples from a brand development perspective because for close to 20 years, Cynthia and I together ran a brand development company where we walked through that door. Somebody said, I really need to a new strategy about how we're going out to market with our message and our brand and who we are as an organization. And so we'd walk in that door of brand development. And one example of that was with an architecture firm. They're an architecture and planning firm who brought us on to develop a brand. And as always, we started by measuring their culture and developing an archetype profile that was the foundation for the language and the graphics and the look and the feel. And it creates this really strong starting point. That organization scaled by now taking a look at how do we show up internally? How do we treat each other sort of in the employment brand of the organization? And getting real clarity about what it feels like to come and work here and how is that reflection of our culture, really more than just our outward expression, more than just the website.
So how does it impact the employee experience? How do people feel when they come to work here, and how can we use that same cultural assessment as a starting point for looking at the internal dynamic?
Exactly. And then Scaling from there, the firm used the individual assessments, right? One of the beautiful things about the Culture Talk tool set is that the individual assessment and the organizational assessment are designed and built on this framework that uses the same 12 patterns. So that makes it easy to scale. It's easy when you've already invested in understanding the patterns and learning the language of the culture to then just shift and apply that to the individuals. So then in this example, each of the individuals in the firm took their own personal assessment. They've already invested, they've already bought in. There's a lot of buy-in because we involved them throughout the process of the brand. And so they already understood what are these archetype patterns.
Right.
They already internalized the culture of the firm. And now they were beginning to get a really deep look at themselves. And how could they take their own personal starting point, their own profile, and align it with what was happening, right, at the firm, and build a professional development plan on there.
Wow.
And so that spans another year worth of working together so that each individual could clarify what is their role in the firm.
Yeah.
How do they support the goals and the brand and the culture of the firm? In what ways could their unique skills and unique personality and their career goals be combined to continue to drive ROI and to have a positive impact at the firm? And so you get this deep connection between who are we as a group,
yeah,
and who am I as an individual, and what value do I bring? And
I'd love to dive into that a little bit too, because one of the things we hear a lot right now is that, as part of the great reshuffle, people want to align themselves with a company, with an employer where the purpose and experience and culture of the company is in alignment with who they are and their own values and their own purpose. And so you have individuals looking for purpose, you have organizations looking to define purpose, right? And this tool of archetypes can sort of bring those two things together to look at, where do we intersect? What do I bring to the party, for example? So we have, I'll give you another example. We have one of our certified partners in Australia that is getting ready to do a whole team experience around the individual archetypes. They have already done their organization. So they're in the process of sort of building out a cultural profile for the organization. So the organization already understands, oh, these are our top patterns. One of them happens to be Jester, if I remember. And now they're going to be doing the individual work, and they're doing an offsite full day. And the goal at the end of the day is to have each individual now be able to define, what do I bring to the party? I know that this is the organizational culture and this is what we're all about. This is the unique way we do our work and show up. Now I want, to understand, if I'm employed there, what do I contribute through my own story, and that raise that kind of awareness. I think it's exactly what you described happened at the architecture firm, right? That interweaving of the individual and the organization.
Yeah, exactly. And another impact that has is for the facilitator. So when you are a facilitator, whether you are consultants coming in from the outside or whether you're an in-house person who's leading this conversation, it creates for you this ongoing stream of activity and revenue, if you're, a consultant who's building a business on this, that drives value back for you as well. So for internal folks, you're continuing to build something from the foundation, from the ground up. You're adding an enormous amount of value that's not just put on a shelf, wasn't a flavor of the month program, but now you're building on it month after month. Yeah. And for consultants coming in, it's building a repeat business for you. So I think both of those examples really demonstrate that kind of value for the facilitator as well.
Right. And I think too, what we see with archetype is that there's the ahas that sort of happen in the moment when someone goes, "Whoo, oh, I do see myself, or I do see our organization through the lens of these stories." But over time, it keeps coming back up, and they see it, and oh my gosh, there I am again. There, I just did that thing again. Oh, now I see how I'm aligned with that story. I see what I need out of this aligned with that story. um, you know, and you only need a little, there's so many different ways to layer on another level of development and growth once you've done the foundational work. So we have another partner based in Miami, Florida, who's working with a leadership team at an organization that is going through big transformation, like a lot of
Like
organizations.
everybody, right?
And, they have started with an archetypal assessment as a way to get to know each other, right? On a deeper level. Who am I? And now they're getting ready to go through what she's calling different leadership labs or humanity labs, where, okay, this is who I am, but now who am I when I'm with you? Where are our storylines wired for, the best outcome, or where are we sort of wired for conflict? How do we collaborate? Um, there's another lab planned then that's going to be about resilience. There's another lab planned then that's going to be about communication. And so, continuing to introduce just another little piece of how to use story to understand and evolve who I am and how I show up and what is my highest potential.
Right. And that's leadership defined right there. It
Yeah.
gives you, the full scaling of a leadership program, and working with and, identifying people in the organization who are going to step up, take responsibility for how they show up and how they interact and how they lead. And so it's a great opportunity for anyone working in a leadership capacity
Mm.
to really, again, lay that strong foundation and then build on it from there. Um, Shifting gears a little bit to the organizational work for a moment, I love the story of a client who used the organizational work to first build a brand, but then was able to really identify the power of it to acquire new organizations. Because once you have some clarity about who we are, what we care about, really what we're passionate about, because we
Yeah.
keep showing up together again every day, every week, every month, we come back to this, right? And we're passionate about what we're bringing to the world. Well, how do we use that information to successfully integrate new companies as mergers take place,
Mhm.
and really effectively share our passion and bring them on board in a
Right.
welcoming way that recognizes they might come from a different perspective.
Yeah, that part is so important. That recognizes, I think what happens when we measure culture and we define it and we build a cultural profile, we can get people excited and on board. So there's like a lot of engagement that happens. But it also opens a leadership team and organization to go, oh, their culture might be different. It's not a better than or worse than.
Right.
It's just,
Not wrong, not bad, but
yeah,
different.
but
Yeah.
different. And how do we recognize the subtleties of the ways those cultural differences show up and how we do the work? Right. And we have a lot of different examples, both from the work we did early on with brand and then into merger, scaling into merger, but also a lot of the partners who are using the culture talk system have been able to do similar things to help organizations sort of take apart the stickiness that happens sometimes in a merged organization where they don't even realize,
Where things are starting to fall apart.
yeah, what is that underlying behavior and why? I just know that it annoys me, but I don't know why you're doing it, or I don't even really internalize that you're thinking about it differently than we do because you have different priorities. And so I think it's a really non-judgmental way in a merged organization or even a team dynamic level where there's conflict. It's a really non-judgmental way of peeling it apart
Yeah.
And understanding it's not you doing that to me, or it's not this team doing this to that team, or this old company doing it to this new company that's come in.
It's the glasses that we're wearing, right? It's just the way we look at the world, we show up. Yeah.
And
I love a quote we had from one business owner who, going through a merger, shared that this process was so much easier because we had taken the time to get to know ourselves so deeply. So we were so clear about the way we showed up and the things that hang us up.
Yeah.
And it made it easier to approach the merger because we knew that this other company, just because we already understood that these patterns exist,
Yeah.
that we were going to have to move through it. And I think scaling even further from there, business owners, frequently have their eye on an exit. What does that look like? And how can understanding your culture drive greater value at exit? And so I'm always reminded of some success stories where, again, the work began with maybe a brand engagement or a change initiative.
Or a team building thing, right? We had a big offsite, we needed a team building initiative, right?
Yeah. And we got real clear about who are we as a group? What is our culture? What's important to us? What are we passionate about? And then we're able to carry that energy forward in a way that was unmistakable.
Right.
That gave us such clarity about the value that we bring and, what makes us unique and successful.
Right.
That somebody coming in from the outside
sees it. It's tangible.
It's tangible, right? That's that tangibility we're always talking about.
Yeah.
And it drives business value.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about a longtime client who did a number of different scaling things around their culture, their brand, acquiring, bringing new companies in, and that eventually the business owner, that they were bought. And the comment was, wow, they asked me to come in and do what I did. The new company that was acquiring them said, we want you to do what you did to build this thing that you did. And she said, I realized at the end of the day, what we had done is we had built a culture. This work gave us that tangibility factor that made it possible for us to get people to get team members to go, yes, I want that. I want to be part of that, in a way that allowed the business to grow to a size to be acquired. And at the end of the day, it was about building the culture.
Right. And, sometimes, as we know, right, you're just going along day by day, you're doing your business. And you really have to allow this, growth in the scalability to seep in. So sometimes that looks like each person that comes in the door and takes a new job with your organization goes through an assessment because they're being brought onto a team and it's scaling a little bit at a time. And, we have organizations, for instance, that then take that person's profile and put it into the handbook or into, the directory, for employees, what is the profile of this person? And so slowly it's like drip, drip, drip. We're reinforcing these ideas. We're using reminders to, maybe it's, we have buttons and screensavers and cards, but there's all kinds of ways that you can just remind people, this is who I am and what value I bring. This is how I show up.
What I need.
And what I need to be successful and where I struggle. And so when that's the language we're using and there's drip, drip, drip reminders, new people invited into the conversation, when you open an onboarding with an orientation program, for instance, with this is who we are as a culture. And, oh, look, we've already taken the time to assess who you are so that you can start to understand how you fit in to the overall organization and to the team. Those are the ways when that scalability, really takes root at the ground level and drives the value throughout the culture. So when you look at today, the conversation around retention and people feeling engaged and connected, the opportunity exists to begin with the baseline and then drip, drip, drip over time, that scaling can happen. You know, and it's a commitment.
Yeah.
The culture is a commitment.
Yeah. I want to comment on the time aspect, because we've said a couple in this conversation, we've talked about, people taking the time to get to know themselves deeply as a culture, as an organization, as individuals, kind of that sustained build, that drip, drip, drip that you're talking about. And I just want to add to that understanding that using story and the archetype framework that we use at Culture Talk, there's also a speed, right?
Right. It's true. It's a shortcut.
It's like both sides of the coin, because the speed is that the speedy aspect is you get to know people quicker on a deeper level.
Right.
And immediately, as someone who's facilitating these kinds of conversations, you'll see that. You'll see that people are willing to go deeper, faster, because they have a framework and a language that makes it safe to show up, and to show up and not be perfect, and to show up and not have all the answers, but be really clear on what value they can bring and where they're working, where they're a work in progress.
Right. That whole aspect of development that is baked into, working with archetype, the ability to see where I am today, and many, many opportunities to continue my own personal development, and for us to continue our development of a team and a culture in the direction we want to see. So, looking at shift and change and growth are really important opportunities when you're working within the system and with archetype. So that's where the scalability really comes in, is when it becomes more than just a fun exercise. And it is a fun exercise.
Yeah. Right.
But when you recognize the opportunity to work it, and that your initial investment can go really far.
There is a ton of ongoing ROI. You take an assessment once, and you get beyond the surface, you get to meet people and to begin to address that human element in the culture at a far deeper, more substantial, right? There's more substance down here. We can put our flag in something deep and that has substance and staying power as well. So it's one of those, we sometimes say it's like the gift that keeps on giving, right? Because years later, you'll still have someone go, oh, there goes our every person archetype again. Like it's got that kind of sticky factor too, that gives it that ability to grow with you as an individual and as an organization. Yeah.
So tell us how to get on board if you want to join this conversation.
Yeah, if you're new to this conversation, we have a certification program. It is an 8-week Zoom meeting. Each session over the 8 weeks is 2 hours. We are kicking off 2 cohorts next Tuesday, April 5th. And the people that join the network of partners, the community of partners that we're building right now, we're in 15, 16 countries, Teresa. Right. So the archetypes do translate.
That's right.
Cross-border. They come from L&D departments, right? They're in-house teams that are looking to drip, drip, drip culture. They've been handed the culture torch, and they're like, where do I begin? So they come in, and we have a whole bunch of ways to help them get going. We also have consultants, management consultants, brand strategists, purpose consultants.
OG folks, people who are also working, been handed or thrown the culture torch.
They want to get in, and they want to move the needle. They're not looking for, a quick hit and move on. They're looking to develop, deep relationships with their clients that really move the needle. And we also have a number of coaches. We've interviewed some of our coaches on these calls in these settings before, that come in to either help executives or help teams kind of, grow, right? And so they're using this framework very specifically to help them see opportunities for growth on those levels. So if you fit into that mold, or if you don't and you're just curious, Teresa and I are always happy to have a conversation with you. We will drop into the comments here, each of us, a link to our calendars. We're happy to share one of our Culture Talk for Individual assessments with you so you can feel it, right? You can take the assessment yourself. You can see your own, results. We'll walk you through like a little mini validation experience around that. But yeah, we're kicking off April 5th. We would love to, we've got room in both of our classes. They're at 2 different times so that you can, depending on where in the world you are, hopefully there's a time that will work for you. So Culture Talk certification.
All right. Well, signing off for another Thursday. Happy that you joined us this week, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Have a beautiful day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.